Too Close for Podcast, episode 52, where we're talking about episode 309. Season 3, episode 9, aired November 25th, 1982, called A Thanksgiving Tale. I wonder if they had been moved to Thursday at that point, and this really aired on Thanksgiving. Yeah, too much research. But A Thanksgiving Tale, you think with a nice, pleasant title like that, you'd get a pleasant, upbeat episode. And no, this is the beginning of the morbid holiday trilogy, I call it.
So this week we find everyone is in the kitchen fawning over Andrew and preparing for their Thanksgiving dinner. That is happening apparently the next day, right? They're doing some prep work when all of a sudden Andrew starts talking. What? And he even mentions hating Henry. You remember this?
Yeah.
What the heck, Andrew? And then Henry's all like, look at his intelligent eyes, Muriel. But they look like dead shark eyes when they cut to that scene, don't they?
Oh, definitely.
Like that kid doesn't have a clue what's happening and doesn't seem to care. Plus, he's probably 3 months old? It's creepy. Like Marty said.
Yeah, that kid did not want to be there.
So just then, Iris arrives with her 16-pound turkey.
Ah, the turkey.
Muriel proposes a question to Iris, wondering if she's feeling well. Later, we cut to a scene where Henry is working on his Cosmic Cow comic before the holidays because he wants to have plenty of time to eat turkey the next day.
Can turkeys fly? We might find out the answer tonight. And no, this is not a WKRP episode, but you can draw the parallels. But of course, that's not until quite a ways into this episode. Stay tuned.
So then Muriel asks, does Henry think Iris looks okay? She's worried about her mother. This time of year, she's looking a little sad. Then Iris says, oh, I'm leaving now. I have to go. I'll see you tomorrow. And then Muriel says, hey, have you thought about getting married again? What an awkward question.
And yet somehow Andrew is talking during this episode. It doesn't really blend together, does it?
No. Iris says she's way too old to be thinking about marriage. And then she gives Muriel a key for a safety deposit box with all her papers and says, I'm leaving everything for you and the kids. Apparently meaning nothing for Henry. Henry walks in and says, hey, what's going on? Iris freaks out when she sees Henry and just bolts out of the house. And then Henry's like, what's up? And she says, everything's for me and the kids. Or something to that effect.
This all ties into next week's episode.
Does it?
Like I'm saying, it's a holiday trilogy of morbidness. When Henry needs more life insurance next week.
Because of the important papers that Iris is keeping, she wants Muriel to have those when she dies, right? That's the theme of this show. Iris is old and she's going to die.
That was going to be the episode title.
Cold? Go
But
ahead.
they went with A Thanksgiving Tale.
Cold and alone. Apparently. I don't know about the cold part, but
That could have been the spin-off show for Iris. Cold and Alone.
where the whole family ditches her or what? She moves back to Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
I'd watch that. So that's Act 1. What do you think about Act 1, Marty?
It was a reasonable length to Act 1 this time. Last few Act 1s have been at least half, if not more than half, of the full episode.
It's the way they edit it, I think, but who knows what they're cutting out? Probably only 3 minutes of the show.
Yeah, for the versions we're watching, they have about somewhere between 1 to 3 minutes cut out. Maybe one day, if they ever get a proper reissue or they show up on Netflix or something.
Roku.
Could
Throwing
happen.
it out there. Now it's the next day, Thanksgiving morning. Henry's getting ready to watch football with Andrew for the first time. He's very excited about sharing this with his child, his son. Muriel is trying to get a hold of Iris on the phone, but having no luck. You like that? I just improvised that part. Because Iris is very late. She was supposed to be there apparently at 10 to put the turkey in, which seems a little late for me. I don't know about you, but back in the day, they were putting that turkey in about 4 in the morning. Somebody was getting up. Remember that?
That was a little early for me.
Yeah, what about your mom?
Yeah, I mean, that would start maybe, I mean, the parades were usually over before the turkey went in.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Ah. See, different customs.
Yeah.
But they're doing it at 10. Henry tells Muriel, don't worry about it and just put the turkey in. Just get it going. And don't worry about it. So she puts the turkey in. And guess what happens? Monroe rushes into the kitchen and says, hey, can I borrow something? And then he sneaks out the fire extinguisher. Apparently they've really messed up downstairs. So Monroe is doing some weird stuff in this scene, which is pretty cool. The first appearance of Monroe, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And guess what he's wearing? A striped shirt.
Very striped.
No, it's ultra striped.
Monroe and ultra stripe outfit.
A new category.
If there was too close for comfort action figures.
Oh, this would be the what? The variant?
Yeah, you have to go to Comfort Con to get that one.
Right? Don't think that's not going to happen, people. We're working on it. Henry's watching plus the kid is talking all the time. I forget to mention that. We'll get to that at the end of the program.
Yeah, nobody can hear it, but the kid is talking.
About this actor, Frank Welker. So then Muriel gets on the phone and calls Mrs. Sobel. Remember Mrs. Sobel? That was one of her neighbors that got invited to
That is correct.
the wedding
Mm-hmm.
that never happened. So Muriel is calling Mrs. Sobel to see what's going on with Iris, and Mrs. Sobel says, I haven't seen Iris since this morning. She took off this morning. No, she says she left over 2 hours ago. That's in my notes. That's why I said that. Just then, guess who shows up, Marty?
Monroe.
Huey.
Oh.
Huey, Henry's father, shows up because he's also been invited to Thanksgiving.
Arizona.
And he's very eager to meet his grandson for the first time.
Ah.
Just then, Henry and Muriel decide they have to go find Iris. They have to go look for her. I don't know how that works in a city where you start looking for people. But anyway, they leave to go look for her. Just then, they hear a news report on the football game about a woman with red hair jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. So then Henry and Muriel freak out, and then 2 seconds later, Monroe, Jackie, and Sarah run up, and they're freaking out. So everybody rushes off to the police station. That sound right?
Yes.
That was Act 2.
Why they keep thinking Iris is trying to kill herself, I don't know. Remember a couple of weeks ago when Henry thought she was going to jump off the balcony?
Yeah, right.
It's just a strange, reoccurring theme.
She's a sad old woman who's alone. The moral of this story is don't die alone, I think. That's just me. We haven't even got to the end of it. You can cut that out. So, Act 3. Now Huey is teaching Andrew about gambling. When the doorbell rings, and guess who it is, Marty? It's Iris. And she says that she's been in her car rolled over into a ditch. And they had to use a welding torch or something to get her out.
Mm-hmm.
And she was trapped for 3 hours. 3. But luckily, she had a bottle of wine, which she has apparently been drinking quite a bit of. Like, the bottle's half empty at this point. And she's holding it like a newborn, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
So then Huey and Iris start drinking together because they're old and who can tell them what to do? And why not just enjoy our lives for what they are, right? I wish. Oh, you gotta watch this episode. It's one of the better ones in retrospect.
I would hope people would be watching the episodes before they're listening to us, but hey, if you like listening to us first, go for it.
And then soon everyone comes back. Jackie, Sarah, Henry, Muriel, and Monroe. They all come back after finding out it wasn't Iris who killed herself, but a woman who weighed about 300 pounds. And then they make some insensitive jokes. Wouldn't you say, Marty?
Yep.
It's really kind of like what's the moral here? What's the moral compass? And then they find Huey and Iris drunk in the kitchen taking care of the baby. Quickly, we diffuse that situation by the turkey being on fire. And then Monroe, being the genius he is, he grabs the turkey and drops it out the window because it's on fire.
And the turkey does not fly.
That's Act 3. And then Henry tries to beat him up.
Act 4. Henry, at full speed, chases after Monroe, who promptly falls down the stairs.
Right?
Well, Iris was up to her interloper tricks again, changing the whole plot line around, revolving it around her. For some unknown reason, we could hear Andrew's thoughts. I, for one, am glad that this was the only episode that they did that on. this is years before the Look Who's Talking movie came out. But it's not like that's the most original concept in the world anyway. So I highly doubt that somebody saw this episode and then wrote that script. But anyway, I wouldn't even have given it a second thought. But Gene said, who was the voice actor for Andrew's baby voice thoughts, or whatever it was called?
Because I found it so annoying. And I just was like, oh, I actually hated this episode before this podcast started.
You had to know who it was.
And now I love it. Go ahead.
So, what is the guy's name?
Frank Welker.
Yeah,
Welker.
We looked him up. He's got, over 700 credits? I mean, he has done pretty much every cartoon you can think of over the last 40-some years.
40 years?
He's been working since the late 60s as a voice actor, where he was and has been Fred on Scooby-Doo for just about every incarnation of that cartoon up to the present day, to where now, I think over the last 10 years, he has switched to playing Scooby on the Scooby cartoons. Just everything. Tons of Smurfs, Transformers. If you were a kid in the 80s and watched Saturday morning cartoons, you heard this guy. He was even
times.
He was on even if you didn't watch those, he's Crackle from Snap Crackle Pop from the Rice Krispie commercials from the 80s.
Yeah, he saw that.
Geez, what else was there? He was Stripe and Gremlins was one of the things I remember. Mr. Mixelplix on Super Friends, which has the Ted Knight connection because Ted Knight was the narrator for that show. Just crazy. Probably the most credits to any actor ever appearing on this show in such a strange throwaway part.
Or maybe almost ever, because that was a lot of credits.
That is a lot of credits.
Seems
Definitely.
like the guy is consistently worked.
Yeah,
to this day.
Yeah, he's even got 2017 credits. Like, what was one of the next things? Jetsons WWE, where he plays Astro.
The new WWE movie with, yeah.
You got a dog character. He was usually it. He was Dynomutt.
Oh, I love Dynomutt.
He was Jabberjaw.
Oh, man, Jabberjaw was my favorite.
That's crazy.
Dude.
So this guy's been around.
Oh, man, I got to go home and watch some Jabberjaw now. You like Jabberjaw. You'll love this episode of Too Close for Comfort.
We had another guest star, the game announcer voice from out of the TV set, for the football game.
The announcer.
Yeah.
Was he the same one doing the report about the woman jumping off the bridge?
Could be. They could have mentioned that she was 300 pounds or something like that, Monroe said.
Monroe, you...
Into the totals here. Cosmic Cow, pow, zap, blammo, as he prepares his strip. University Cincinnati was the Henry sweater. Only one of those. But what did we call it? Uber stripe, ultra striped.
The ultra stripe.
Ultra striped Monroe.
We're not German. It would be ultra stripe.
More than made up for one Henry sweater. Objects out the window, a turkey out the window in the final moments, just when you think you have nothing else left to mark off on your bingo chart. In the final seconds of the show, a turkey goes out the freaking window.
We should start a game. We start giving away things.
Like a bingo chart.
We make up a board, and if somebody wins, sends us a screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, screen grab. One-sided phone conversations. Muriel to Iris's neighbor, Mrs. Sobel, who was invited to that wedding way back in episode 306. This was production number 311. It's actually episode 50 of Too Close for Comfort. This is the 50th episode. Henry pointed 4 times in this one.
Wow, I didn't see a 1, so...
We did have grocery bag props, but they were not paper bags. So I don't really count that.
It doesn't count.
We had the El Camino drive-by to start. And was Andrew in this episode? Oh, yes, he definitely was. But you know what was really interesting about Andrew in this episode? No, not that we could hear his voice. Baby switch. This is the episode where they switched out the babies on us for the first time. They are now played by William Thomas Cannon and Michael Philip Cannon. The practice of using twins on these shows. I mentioned it before with like Full House, and it's just weird.
They give the baby a lot of screen time.
I guess so. When you're not using one, you can use the other. You can flip back and forth, and they look the same. So.
Well, they had a baby originally,
but I guess for these intense shark-eyed close-ups, and watch that guy be one of our listeners. Hey, I'm grown up now, and I listen to your show, and you're calling me dead shark eyes. Dude, if you are listening, watch the episode again. You got to agree with us.
Of the thousands of people who listen to our show.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. We'll get him on the show. We can ask him about what it was like.
He'd be like, I don't remember. I was an
3
infant.
months old.
Intro variants. Monroe in the chair, and special guest star Audrey Meadows. So kind of the classic intro, just with the special guest star added. Subversiveness. Andrew's thoughts. I mean, it was just weird more than subversive.
Hated Henry.
He did hate his own father. Musical cues. We had the 5-note happen twice. And Huey. Yes, we had Huey in this episode.
That's why there's a category.
Yeah. And this one almost falls under my rarely used WTF category for seemingly unrelated off on a tangent episodes. That we almost got there. Good thing this was a one-shot with Andrew talking.
Oh, man.
But really, the 2 WTF episodes are the backdoor pilots at the end of this season. Those should be an interesting pod. Scale of 1 to 5, I give this a 4 for its strangeness. Borderline 5, it's top of the 4s, but, that the kid talking, even though he is voiced by that guy, it still kind of drags it down for
It's
him.
the most annoying voice you could possibly do.
Uh-huh. Maybe it was one of his leftover, or I should say, pre-Muppet Babies voices. Because he did that show, too. Bizarre Odd Happenings. Well, yeah, the Look Who's Talking episode. Also, there was mention of slam dancing. And
Huey. I forgot this. Huey liked to go to the punk club with his girlfriend, who was a, mud wrestler?
I think so.
That's right. He was going to the punk clubs, doing some slam dancing.
And this was the only Huey and Iris episode. The only time those two were together.
I thought they were going to hook up.
What did we learn? You kept asking. I don't think we learned anything. No, if you listen to Huey's speech, you learned that, but not even a very special episode. More, I'd say, easily in the top 5 weirdest Too Close for Comfort episodes ever. And that's saying a lot. This season contains another one of the weirdest ones, Henry's Portrait.
Oh, yeah.
And down the line,
we should have already done by now.
If they hadn't rearranged the order they showed that one in. And the upcoming Monroe Gets Raped episode. Oh, yeah, it's really an episode. Season? No, that's down the line. That's like season 4, I think.
Why do you even bring that up then?
Because that's another one of the top 5 all-time weirdest episodes of the show, I would say.
Well, most people think it's number 1.
I'd say that one probably is the,
I'm going to say it's number 3. Because, dude, when it first came out, didn't even faze me, man. How about you?
I don't think I saw that episode until a couple years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, season 3 took some chances. It's as if they already knew they were canceled, doing a bizarre episode like this. A morbid holiday classic. Next time, we'll be back with episode 310.
What's that one about, Marty?
Henry Needs More Life Insurance. The part 2 of the morbid holiday trilogy, as I like to call it. Episode title, Pressures Rising.
classic.
And it does have a very classic elevator routine in it.